Is someone who I would say, no one would argue with me, is one of the most important people in my life. The person who gave life to me itself. Isela Castañon-Williams. When she asked me to come and to introduce her for this induction, I reluctantly said yes, because there's someone else who's also very important, who has done a lot of work for the Democratic Party, who is responsible for nominating her, and that's Mr. Aaron Bonds. But Aaron is the kind of Democrat that I think we all wish we could aspire to be. The kind of person who works hard, who promotes others, and who does not strive hard to promote themselves egotistically. Aaron stepped aside and said, "No, man, go ahead and take the speech. I really don't want to talk." I didn't bring a suit today. I have to say that I'm very grateful for this. And so when I thought about this opportunity to introduce my mother, I thought about writing a long speech and detailing a lot of her accomplishments, some of which I will visit with you. But I also wanted to talk to you about some things that I've learned from my mother, some things that I think make me proud to be a Democrat, that I've also learned from my mother, and some of the reasons why I'm so incredibly proud of her for receiving this very prestigious award. So allow me to begin with that. When I think of my mother, I think about everything that she's taught me since the day I was born. And I've learned a lot from her. My mom has always been an educator. But one of the most important things that my mother taught me was how important it was for us to treat other people with respect, to be mindful of others, to care about the people that we serve, and that no matter what position of authority that we're in, to treat everybody with dignity, with equality, and with kindness, and with love. And my mom has done that. Through my life, watching her devote her time to this Democratic Party for over 20 years, I've watched my mom participate in almost every Democratic Party organization that this party has in this county. She has volunteered countless hours, knocking on doors, making phone calls for presidential candidates, state representatives, city council officials. She even helped out other people with their precinct chair races. She always did it, she never complained, she was always kind to others, and she always treated people with respect. And I appreciate that model that she gave us because I think that's really what's at the heart of what it means to be a Democrat. That we are mindful of our responsibility to serve others, that we care about our responsibility to ensure that every person is treated with dignity, with kindness, with respect, and with a great deal of love. My own mother's story is one that she doesn't say very often, but I'd like to share with the rest of you. My great-grandmother immigrated here from Torreon, Mexico in the 20s, and she brought her 6 kids with her to the American bridge, and she was given humanitarian parole. She did it after losing her husband, and she knew that this country was the only country that could afford to give her children, their grandchildren, and even her great-grandchildren, the opportunity to have the stuff that she never could have. She was an indigenous woman who barely had even a high school education, if that. But she knew that the one thing that she could teach all of her kids and her grandkids, including my mother, whom she raised, because my mom lost her parents when she was young, was that you work very hard. You be a person of your word, you treat others with respect, and that when you go for your education, you work hard at that also, because you may lose everything in this world. But your education is something that nobody can ever take away from you. And my mom instilled those values in me as well. And in our family, we are incredibly proud of her. A person who graduated from Bowie High School in Segundo Barrio. My mom was the very first person in our family that immigrated here from Mexico to graduate from college and to get her graduate degree from the University of Washington at Seattle, at a time when most women were discouraged even from going to college in the first place. She never accepted mediocrity. She always strove for what was best, and she always pushed us hard, her children, to do the very best. And to her, I attribute the accomplishment that I have, that I share with her, that I finished law school, following in her footsteps. She's an incredible mother. As a Democrat, my mom taught me how important it was to not just show up for the fundraisers or to show up for the banquets, but to be there when people call you and ask you to help out, to be there for the enchilada dinners, to chop the onions, to chop the lettuce, to help make the sauce, to show up to the meetings when nobody else wants to show up, to vote for the issues, to make sure that your voice is heard, to stand up for others, to care about how your neighbors are treated. I learned all of those things from her because I know that she knew how important it was for her to be able to stand up for the people that she represents. When she was on the school board, one of her greatest accomplishments, something that got very little press, ironically, in the newspaper, was the fact that she and her board unanimously approved a non-discrimination policy against gay, lesbian, and transgender employees at a time when most teachers were afraid of just being who they were. As her son, she stood solidly behind me. She knew how important it was for students who are gay, lesbian, and transgender to know that they had role models that they could look up to who were open about who they were and who could model themselves as examples of people that graduated from school, that were leaders in our community, and who were able to help offer protection from those that might try to cause us harm. That's a major accomplishment, and that's one that will always be a part of her legacy and one for which I am very grateful for. I could give you a very long list of all the incredible accomplishments that she accomplished as a president of the school board, as a trustee for District 2 for UPISD, but I will tell you that one of the most important accomplishments that I saw my mother accomplish while she was an elected official was her commitment to represent people and to not step down, to understand that she had a responsibility to complete her term, to know that there were people like myself who lived in her district who had voted for her and who expected her to understand that when we have a democracy, that when we elect people to power, those people are elected with the full mandate of those that elect them to office and that they expect them to complete their terms. And even though the political climate wasn't popular, it wasn't friendly, it was very unkind, she bravely stood by her oath that she swore when she took office, and she did so always with dignity, with grace, with kindness, and with love for everyone, even with those who did not reciprocate those same affections. And for that, I am very grateful, and I admire her, and I respect her. And I say that we as Democrats, we can all learn from one another, but if there's one important thing that we can learn from this Hall of Fame inductee, is that no matter how ugly politics can get, no matter how rough the waves can get, that we will always shine at our brightest when we treat other people with love, with kindness, with dignity, and with respect. So with that, I'd like to very proudly receive my mother and to say congratulations as a Hall of Fame inductee for the El Paso County Democratic Party.
Well, I tend to cry often, as you can see. I want to thank Aaron Bass for nominating me, and I want to thank the committee for voting for me, and I want to thank Butch Maya as the chair of this party. As he has said, this has been a very difficult time for the Democratic Party. Butch had many aspirations, and he has faced many challenges, and I applaud him for his courage, for his tenacity, for being with us as a leader. And I think we should all give him a round of applause. I also want to thank Diana Olin, because it is very difficult. She never signed up for all the work that she ended up having to do. But we know that with all of her hard work, and she has had to use a great deal of diplomacy here, that she is going to make a great incoming chair. And I want to thank you, Ileana, for all that you have done to keep this party together. You know, I'm not going to be up here for very long at all, because I know you're all tired. But I do want to share that my first Democratic experience for me was when I was 13 years old. And there was a teacher at Bowie High School who was running for state representative. And, you know, back then it was really super hard for Hispanics to run for anything. So he had no money. And so a few of us were rounded up, and we were asked by his friend whether we'd be willing to go with him to help this candidate. Well, I had no idea what that was, but I want you to know that we stood outside Andrews High School, and it was a brand new school, so there were no trees. It was really hot. And we stayed out there all day long. And we asked people to vote for this teacher. And as all of you in this room who have worked for other candidates know, you know what an incredible high it is when your candidate wins. And ours did. And I was hooked. And then I wanted to know more. And as the years went by, I discovered that the Democratic Party is really the best hope that we have to be an inclusive society, to open doors to everyone, regardless of who they are, the color of their skin, their ethnicity, their lifestyle, where they've come from, and where they might end up. And so I have committed my life to being a Democrat. And sometimes, as Antonio has said, it has not always been easy. There have been some very big ups and big lows in this Democratic Party. But I've always remembered how important it was for me to learn firsthand, as part of my education when I was 13, how important it is to understand the political process, the impact that politics have on people's everyday lives, and why it's so important for us to make our voices heard, to know that our vote has a big impact. Pete Gallego said earlier tonight that in our culture, we are told to be humble, but we have to stand up. And I want to encourage all of you to be a part of educating young people, because there are so many people today and so many young people that I see in my classes every semester that don't have the slightest idea about how important it is to go out and vote and what it means to vote. Antonio said something that I am very proud of. I want to thank my three sons, and I'd like to ask them to stand. Antonio, who is here, Isela and Cheyenne, would you please stand? My three sons are the joy and the drive behind everything that I do. I think of the world that they're coming into and what they're going to inherit. They have stood with me through some of the darkest times in my political career, and they still stand with me, and they still encourage me. I also want to thank my family, my cousins, who are my brothers and my sisters and are here with me tonight. And if you could all stand, please. Because through thick and thin, in the worst of times and in the best of times, they have always been there to encourage me, even though sometimes they may not understand what it is that I'm up to. But anyway, so again, I thank you all for this incredible honor. I want to thank my fellow inductees. I want to thank all the beautiful previous inductees that are here tonight, because I am so honored to be joining you. Thank you again.